The Washington Commanders' most intriguing new weapon isn't a player on the field, but it's actually legendary wide receiver Wes Welker, who's lending a helping hand in crafting this year's defense. That and more right now on Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Commanders. I am David Harrison, your guy on the ground here covering the Washington Commanders for WUSA 9, and here with you 5 days a week, occasionally also a 6th or even 7th day a week like we are this weekend. A bonus episode of Locked On Commanders coming at you right now. You can also find me writing about the Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. Follow me on Twitter at DHarrison82, or at X, I should say. Thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or your first view today. And a special thank you goes out to all of the everydayers who come through for every single episode. If you haven't already, please make sure you are subscribed for free on YouTube or wherever you're listening to today's podcast. And of course, if it is your first time coming through, I appreciate you finding the show. Hopefully you enjoyed enough and you come back again real soon. On today's episode, undrafted free agent rookie wide receiver Ja'Cory Brooks stops by to talk. But first, we got to go through some practice notes from Ashburn out here on Friday afternoon. And we've got to talk about what Joe Whitt Jr. and Kliff Kingsbury shared is one of the most intriguing additions to the team, legendary wide receiver Wes Welker. All of that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, the Washington Commanders' most intriguing new weapon, not necessarily a player, someone who's going to have an impact on both sides of the field, potentially even all three phases of the field every week this season. Legendary wide receiver Wes Welker, who joined the staff in the offseason. Both offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury and defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr. spoke about his impact on the team today on Friday during their press conferences. And it's clear from listening to both of these guys that not only is the confidence in the defense growing by the day, but it's in no small part from an offensive perspective being brought in, or that Wes Welker being brought in is helping to create some of that confidence and create some of that momentum that this defense has shown here in training camp this year, and especially in helping develop players like Jeremy Reaves, and that continued development of Jeremy Reaves continuing to impact the defense here in Ashburn. So talking about Wes Welker's role, defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr. explained that Welker is helping assist the defense with, quote, pre-scouting from an offensive standpoint, end quote, providing a Hall of Fame caliber, potentially legendary caliber perspective of how an offense might attack this Joe Whitt Jr. defense, the Washington Commanders defensive unit, and giving that kind of counterintelligence that can really help a coordinator like Joe Whitt to understand how these offenses out here might go about attacking the defense, and then how he can counter that, prepare for it. So then when he sees some of these things that Wes Welker is telling him to look out for, he's ready, he has a plan, his team has a plan, and hopefully as we get into the season, it's going to prove to be a pretty big advantage. What Joe Whitt Jr. also added that Welker has been a resource for the secondary, giving them a quote-unquote wealth of knowledge on pretty much the same thing, right? But route running, quarterback tendencies, what they're looking for, kind of what your body language tells them, what your positioning tells them, things like that, just making them smarter football players all around. Offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury added to that Wes Welker is a quote-unquote jack of all trades and a quote-unquote incredible addition to the staff who shares wisdom from all of his experiences, Super Bowl experiences, obviously, a lot of winning in Wes Welker's history, sharing that with the team and the offense specifically here this season. Getting more into what Joe Whitt Jr. had to say after practice in his press conference, said he's been pleased with the defensive growth, especially when it comes to rushing the passer, playing against the run, tight coverage in the secondary, and stressed the need to quote-unquote translate that to game day, which of course is something we're all hoping to see at least a little bit of Monday night when the Washington Commanders host the Cincinnati Bengals, their preseason home opener, second of 3 preseason games. Perhaps the only one we really see the first team defense get a significant amount of reps. But out here on the practice field, we've seen it on multiple days. In fact, we've seen it so many times that I've got Commanders insiders, Locked On Commanders insiders, asking me if we should be concerned about Jayden Daniels. Well, the good news for you, Jayden Daniels had a really good day of practice out here on Friday. I've already told you not to necessarily be all that concerned, to maybe temper some of those concerns, but we're going to get a little bit more into that on why here in just a little bit. But the defense has been looking good. We talked on yesterday's episode. If you haven't caught that yet, please be sure to do so after this one, because we kind of went in depth on the burgundy and gold scrimmage, really kind of unveiled a little bit of a new approach, moving D ends like Dietrich Wise Jr. And other guys inside, more kind of having the pass rush off of the guards and how impactful it was and how it was really just kind of a cool new wrinkle and something that we might actually see during the preseason here on Monday, but also into the regular season if it continues to be effective. Joe Whitt Jr. also praised Jeremy Reaves, saying that he has earned that third safety spot. And that's really interesting because typically that third safety spot we've kind of given to Percy Butler, right? Quan Martin back there with Will Harris, your two starters. And when Will Harris drops down into this box to be the star, we kind of look at Percy Butler as that next guy. But Jeremy Reaves has been getting more and more of those reps. And Joe Whitt Jr., I mean, he said earlier this offseason that Jeremy was a guy that he wanted to get on the field for more reps. And now saying on Friday that he has absolutely earned that third safety position. So look for that moving ahead. And then, of course, going into the preseason game with the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe is excited to see his top corners get challenged by some really good receivers, a really good quarterback, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, going to give Trey Amos and Marshawn Lattimore all that they can handle and more coming up this preseason. So all the coaching theories and the strategies, they're absolutely great, but it's the execution on the practice field where Jayden Daniels shined the most on Friday. That and more coming up on today's bonus episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Commanders is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. This year, me and Locked On Commanders, we're playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. I love digging through camp reports to find sleeper picks like potentially Ja'Cory Brooks. Not going to be right off the top of the charts, but you never know how the season can go. Could potentially develop into a guy that you can plug in there for 1 week here or there. And dynasty rosters, if you got an extra spot, wouldn't necessarily be a bad investment. The Yahoo platform makes it incredibly easy. To celebrate 28 years of Yahoo fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features throughout the month of August. And to kick it off, they just dropped the Guillotine Leagues, an all-new way to play where every single week the lowest scoring team is eliminated until there's only one team left standing. So give that new mode a try, or if you're more of the classic type of player like I am, you still have those modes as well. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Today's episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever wished that managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app, though. It is a complete financial command center where you can track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. We just heard from Joe Whitt Jr. about the importance of details for his defense. Well, the same is true for your finances. When I started using Monarch Money, some of the details it gave me I didn't really love, but I used those details to get better, and now I'm on a much better track. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Forget the drills. Jayden Daniels leading a game-winning drive in a 2-minute situation is the single most important thing that happened at training camp practice today, proving, again, that he has that clutch gene that everybody desperately needs. And, of course, for fans who might have been a little bit concerned about this offense, you're going to love hearing that in a game-time situation, Jayden Daniels' first-team offense coming up with the game-winning drive. Matt Gay, more importantly, arguably, at least for training camp narratives, coming up with the game-winning field goal. Jayden Daniels, efficient on Friday in 11-on-11s, completing 14 of his 19 pass attempts. And of those 19 pass attempts, you're also counting in there one clearly drop pass, one pass that you could possibly count as a drop pass, and then one throwaway. So those 3 passes, really, you talk about Jayden, the 2 passes, they're on target. He does his job, right? And then the third pass is a throwaway to save time, which nobody's really going to fault the quarterback for. So if you take those 3 off, you're really looking at a 14 for 16 day, highly, highly efficient. No touchdowns, but in the early part of the practice, they weren't moving the ball, right? They were on a spot, running these plays, and then coming back to the exact same spot. So again, don't get too wound up about that. And then that end of game drives situation, tied at 21, 40 or so seconds left on the clock. The goal is burn the time off the clock, get into field goal range, let Matt Gay deal with the rest, and he did so. 42-yard field goal made by Matt Gay. In fact, Matt Gay made all 6 of his kicks in practice, at least that we observed on Friday, including one from 57, 58 yards, a little bit from there. I don't know the exact yardage because I was at a little bit of a weird angle, but I can tell you it was around 57, 58 yards on depth. So Very good performance from Matt Gay. You love seeing that, especially after the vote of confidence he got from Dan Quinn after that Patriots preseason game and the practice, saying that they're not to the point yet where they needed to bring competition in for the kicker. Some practice notes and standouts. Wide receiver Ja'Cory Brooks continuing to have a very strong camp, connected on a deep pass in front of safety Ben Nickel, and then also had a stretch out catch and contested catch from Jayden Daniels earlier in the practice as well. First team offensive line, Laramie Tunsil was back out there. However, Brandon Coleman still not practicing. So Andrew Wiley was out there at left guard. Nick Allegretti, Tyler Biotish, and Josh Connolly Jr. fleshing out the rest of the offensive line. Terry McLaurin, Sam Cosme, still not out of practice, but Tyler Owens, Jordan McGee, both of them out here. Marshawn Lattimore, Zach Ertz, guys that have vet rest days off yesterday. Von Miller, all back at practice here on Friday. Undrafted wide receiver Ja'Cory Brooks has been turning some heads in camp, and he spoke with us after practice about showcasing his abilities, learning from the veterans, because he is a guy that I'm telling you right now, I've got pegged right in the middle of this competition for what could be the last active roster spot in the wide receiver room.
I feel great. But now I got a regular routine that I normally do, pregame ritual, week, days before the game, just preparing myself with the playbook and, physically getting hydrated, the usual.
What do you bring to that room, the wide receiver room? What do you bring to that room?
As far as I can say, I just bring energy and, I'm young, so you feel me? Like I say, energy again, and just everything, whatever they need me to bring, I'm bringing it to the table.
How do you feel like your college experience kind of prepares you for what you're going through right now with the Commanders?
My college experience prepared me well. I could say, as far as me first starting off at Bama, having to make my way on the team. Well, not make my way on the team, but work my way in a starting spot and just being able to play and produce. But college prepared me well, even going through the Ville, having to go to a whole new program, whole new coach, and, just to prove myself that I belong on the team. So it prepared me well.
You hear Coach Quinn talk about players like in your position not going out there and trying too hard to necessarily make the splash play. How do you kind of balance the mindset of wanting to show what you can do, but also understanding kind of the patience to let yourself get better?
Just me knowing that I'm a playmaker myself at being a receiver. So like Coach say, I ain't going out there trying to be superhero and trying to prove a point. I just go out there and make my plays when my number is called. But other than that, I just sit back and, be humble, watch the other guys and learn from the other vets that's out here.
And what's it been like to work with Coach Ingram?
It's been good because, Coach Ingram once played receiver and Coach Dre, so it's like they both know what it takes to even play this position, and they know how to take care of our body and stuff, and they just give me tricks and trade from even when they was playing up until now for far as them coaching, and I just take everything in, soak it up like a sponge, and I just retain a lot of knowledge for real.
You've been stacking some really pretty good practices. Today specifically had a really good stretch out catch during one of the team sets. When you go back and watch the tape and you see those good reps getting stacked up on tape, how does that make you feel?
I feel normal, but I mostly look at like the plays I didn't execute well, or that was almost a big play that just I just go back and critique on the little things and just try to not make those mistakes again if I do make a mistake, and just learn from what I've been told in that moment as far as me to get better within that route or within that play.
And what do you want to showcase on Monday night?
I want to showcase everything, catch radius, route ability, speed, being a great teammate, everything, man. So I'm not too up, too down on it. I'm just getting myself prepared.
Brooks is going to continue making his case for a roster spot during the upcoming Monday night preseason game. You can pretty much bet on that, and I'm very excited for those of you who haven't been able to see him, get a little bit of a glimpse of him against the Cincinnati Bengals. That's going to do it for today's bonus episode. Next time on Locked On Commanders, we're having another bonus episode from out here in Ashburn, another practice on Saturday. So we are dropping another bonus episode. That'll be 7 episodes of Locked On Commanders in 1 week this week. And that, of course, all leads into the Monday Night Football game against the Cincinnati Bengals. In the meantime, if you've got questions or comments, all you got to do is send them to me via text message. To do that, become a Locked On Commanders insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders today. NFL fantasy draft season is here. For your second listen, go to Locked On Fantasy Football and check out all that you need to do, or all that you need to get to prep your fantasy draft, become the most informed manager so you can take home your league's championship this year. Find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or wherever you're listening to today's episode. To the everydayers, I see you every day. I appreciate you every day. And a special thank you to you every day, but also today. Until next time, stay safe, be kind to one another. We'll talk again real soon right here at Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.